Prologue, the Ashen Wake. The world did not end with a scream, but with silence. When Ilir Veilfarin shattered the gates of rebirth, the heavens fractured. Metropolis X, once a festering monument to greed, now stood beneath a sky of frozen twilight, a bleeding sun suspended between dusk and dawn. The air tasted of burnt copper, and the streets whispered with the echoes of the dead. In the ruins of Arenval, where the bones of Phoenix riders lay scattered like broken promises, a single figure stirred. Evangeline the Unbound knelt in the ash, her fingers tracing the remnants of Ilir's cloak. The fire in her veins, Etherion's last gift, flickered uneasily. The Phoenix was gone. The gates were dust. And yet, a shadow moved where no shadow should have been. A man stepped from the smoke. Ilir's face. Azrael's eyes. He smiled, and the world trembled. Chapter 1, The Hollow Crown. Metropolis X, the Syndicate's last stand. Kael Draven's golden mask gleamed in the half-light as he addressed the remnants of the Syndicate. The mechanized titans that had once guarded their empire now stood motionless, their gears clogged with ash. "We are the last kings of a dead world," Kael rasped, his voice a ruin of what it once was. "And I will not rule over corpses." His decree was simple: find Evangeline. Extract the fire she carried. Reignite the machine of conquest. But in the lower city, where the plague-stricken huddled in the ruins, another power stirred. Matheo, Raven's blight, the ghost who had burned Sebastian's empire, watched from the shadows. The Syndicate's bounty on his head meant nothing now. The game had changed. And in his palm, a vial of Shadowfire pulsed like a dying star. Chapter 2, The Phoenix and the Shadow. Evangeline's Gambit. Evangeline was not alone. Arthur Waterhill, the river guardian, emerged from the poisoned canals, his once pristine robes now stained with ink-black water. "The rivers remember," he murmured. "They whisper of a storm beyond the horizon." Helena Dry had vanished into the rifts, but her final message lingered, etched into the skin of a dead courier. "The gates are broken, but the keys remain. Find the Black Phoenix." And then there was him, the man with Ilir's face. He called himself Nyx. "You carry Etherion's fire," Nyx said, his voice a blade of frost and embers. "But fire is not yours to keep." Evangeline's dagger was at his throat in an instant. "What are you?" His smile was a wound. "The end. Or the beginning. It depends on you." Chapter 3, The Syndicate's Maw. Matheo's Descent. The Thieves' Guild was gone, swallowed by the chaos. Lyra's last words haunted Matheo: burn it all. But the Syndicate had already begun to burn itself. Kael's mechanized enforcers stalked the streets, harvesting survivors for their project. In the Blackwater docks, a new machine grown to life, a grotesque fusion of flesh and steel, its heart a hollow chamber meant to hold fire. Evangeline's fire. Matheo's fingers tightened around the Shadowfire. He had seen what it could do. Liquid flame that fed on magic. On souls. A whisper in the dark, "You could walk away." Isolde. Her throat still bandaged, her voice stolen. But her eyes spoke volumes. Matheo kissed her forehead. "Not this time." Chapter 4, The Black Phoenix. Nyx's Revelation. The Ashen Waste stretched endlessly, a graveyard of dead gods. Nyx led Evangeline to the heart of it, a crater where the gates had once stood. Now, only a single feather remained, black as void and burning with cold fire. "Etherion is not gone," Nyx said. "Only changed." He pressed the feather into her palm. The moment it touched her skin, the visions came. A world reborn in shadow. Azrael, kneeling before a throne of bones. Ilir, screaming in the dark. Evangeline wrenched free, gasping. What the hell was that? Nyx's golden crimson eyes flickered. The future. Chapter 5, The Inferno Pact. The Final Alliance. In the ruins of the Clock Tower of Sighs, the last players gathered. Evangeline, her veins alight with stolen fire. Matheo, his dagger and vial of Shadowfire weighing heavy. Arthur, his waters churning with forgotten oaths. And Nyx, the ghost of a dead god. Kael's army marched on the lower city. Gale Blackthorn's shade Wyrms slithered through the cracks in reality. And somewhere, Azrael watched. Waited. "We can't win," Arthur said. Nyx laughed. "No. But we can choose how we lose." Matheo uncorked the Shadowfire. "Then let's make it a damn spectacle." Evangeline closed her eyes. The feather burned in her grip. Somewhere, in the space between death and rebirth, Etherion screamed. Chapter 6, The Ghost and the Phoenix. Matheo found Nyx in the ruins of the clock tower of Sighs, his silhouette haloed by the frozen twilight. The air hummed with the residue of Etherion's fire, and Matheo's Shadowfire vial burned hotter in his grip. "You knew him," Matheo accused. "Ilir. You wear his face like a mask." Nyx turned, his Azrael-like eyes smoldering. "Masks are your specialty, thief." Ilir tried to break the cycle. "You? You've only ever run from yours." A vision struck Matheo, a memory not his own, Ilir standing at the gates of rebirth, screaming as the fire consumed him. Matheo staggered, his mind flooded with ash and regret. Nyx smirked. "The Shadowfire is his legacy. A shard of the Phoenix's heart. Use it, and you become another link in the chain." Isolda's hand gripped Matheo's arm, her silent plea pulling him back. But the truth lingered, Ilir's war had become his own. Chapter 7, The Shadow's Embrace. The Syndicate's flesh machine abomination loomed over the lower city, its hollow heart glowing hungrily. Matheo hurled the Shadowfire vial, watching liquid flame engulf its chest. For a moment, victory seemed possible, until the machine absorbed the fire, its gears roaring to life with corrupted magic. "It feeds on souls," Arthur realized, as the machine began harvesting the living. Matheo's hands trembled. Ilir's voice echoed in his mind, "Fire reveals what they cannot control." The Shadowfire had exposed the Syndicate's depravity, and Matheo's own recklessness. That night, he dreamt of Seraphine. "Loyalty is a noose," she hissed. "Cut it." Chapter 8, The Fractured Pact. Evangeline proposed a suicidal plan, lure the machine to the ashen wastes and detonate it with Nyx's black feather. But Nyx refused. "The feather is not a weapon. It's a key, to rebuild the gates." Matheo recoiled. "Ilir died to destroy them." "And yet here we are," Nyx countered. "The cycle persists. Choose, let Kael's machine devour this world, or risk a new one." Isolda pressed a note into Matheo's palm, "Trust nothing. Burn everything." The group fractured. Arthur fled to the rivers. Evangeline sided with Nyx. Matheo stood alone, the ghost of Ilir's choices haunting him. Chapter 9, The Pyre of Kings. Kael's machine reached the lower city. Matheo fought through streets choked with smoke and screams, his dagger finding syndicate throats. Above, Evangeline and Nyx clashed with Gale's shade Wyrms, their battle tearing holes in the sky. In the machine's heart, Matheo found Kael, his golden mask cracked, revealing melted flesh. "You're too late," Kael rasped. "The fire is already lit." Matheo plunged the whisper dagger into the Shadowfire core. "Then let's see what it reveals." The explosion blinded him. When the ash settled, the machine was slag. Kael was gone. And Matheo's hands, they flickered with Shadowfire. Chapter 10, The Unbound Chain. Nyx awaited Matheo in the crater of the gates. "You wield his fire now." "Ilir's heir." "I'm no one's heir," Matheo growled, but the Shadowfire in his veins whispered otherwise. Evangeline lay wounded nearby, her phoenix flame dimming. "End it," she begged. "Break the cycle." Nyx extended the black feather. "Open the gates. Rewrite history." Matheo hesitated. Ilir's sacrifice, Seraphine's lessons, Isolda's silence, they collided. He seized the feather, and snapped it. No more gods. No more chains. The ground split. Nyx howled, dissolving into ash. The frozen sky shuddered. Epilogue, the first ember. The twilight lifted, replaced by a dawn no one remembered. Matheo stood at the edge of Metropolis X, his Shadowfire scars glowing faintly. Isolde, her voice still lost, traced the words on a crumbling wall, "From ash, we rise." But in the ruins of Erenval, a new shadow stirred. A figure with Matheo's face and Nyx's smile emerged, a phoenix of black flame circling overhead. Somewhere, Evangeline laughed bitterly. "The cycle is dead. Long live the cycle. They call me a hero. But heroes are just ghosts who haven't learned to let go." Matheo, the Unshackled.